Forward TV. The world is thinking.
And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Rabbi Firestone. He is a professor of medieval Judaism and Islam at Hebrew Union College in LA. He is also the director of the Institute for the Study and Enhancement of Muslim-Jewish Relations, Jewish Interrelations, a program at the University of Southern California. He is an ordained rabbi, and he received his PhD at NYU in Arabic and Islam Studies. We're so happy to have Rabbi Rabbi Firestone here with us tonight. Please join me in welcoming him.
Good evening. It's great to be here. This is quite a sound system. I don't have to lean over near the microphone. I hope I'm not overdoing it and being too loud. There's some people in the audience that I got to know living in Cairo a couple of years ago, and I just want to acknowledge them. They've been teachers for me and friends and colleagues, and it's been wonderful to know them. I'm going to stumble for a few minutes as I get my thoughts together before we really get into the tachlis of what we're doing this evening. But I want you to know that what I'm going to say this evening, although I'm wearing a kippah, is not going to be from a particularly Jewish perspective, as in a particularist Jewish perspective. I want to talk about what Jews need to know about Islam and an introduction to Islam from a kind of an academic perspective. And I want to give you a little preview or maybe a warning of what we're going to be looking at this evening. Let me slow down the Quran recitation. I'm not sure, this may be the first time at Sixth and I Synagogue that the Quran has been recited here. We live, as you know, in a very politicized world. You who live here in this town live in one of the great politicized centers of the politicized world. And we know that this politicization, if you will, which is a word that's thrown around a lot, when I use the term, I'm intending to mean that we naturally observe the world according to a set of criteria that are established for us. And I'm not trying to say that we're being manipulated, but whoever we are, as Jews, as Muslims, as Christians, as secularists, we grow up in environments in which we are trained to see the world in a particular way. That world is influenced by politics. It's influenced by religion, by culture, by family. And it's not reality in its fullness. It's reality only partial. That's right. It's reality partial because it's only a particular angle on the world around us. My job as an academic, and I teach both in a Jewish seminary and at the University of Southern California, which is a pretty good-sized private, non-denominational university, my job is to break down some of those narratives that we have created for us to construct the world around us, and to try to look at the phenomenon of religion, and particularly the religion of the other, with a different set of eyes. It's my view that religions in the West, and when I say in the West, I mean west of the Amu Darya River, somewhere in Pakistan, the West meaning the world in which most religious people are adherents of what we call monotheistic or scriptural or Abrahamic religions. In the West, religions are in a kind of natural tension with one another. I can't really speak about religions outside of this area because there's not my area of training. But we live in a world in which religions are naturally in tension with one another, in the same way that tribalism creates a world in which there's natural tension. Nationalism creates a world in which there's natural tension as well. So we aspire to a time, or we generally aspire to a time or to a place in this world where we'll be able to live together in peace and everything will be just wonderful. We'll be able to resolve our differences. And that is something we should continue to aspire to forever. But it's my view that it will never happen. I think that's a pretty realistic view. Now, when I say it will never happen, I'm not really being pessimistic about it. What we need to do is engage in the program and in the process of working to that goal, because it's built into this human system to be in competition with one another. I think I'm an advocate. I'm wandering here a little bit, but I do believe that it's not natural and it's not fair to assume that the goal of religion is inherently to create a world of peace. It's universal. I'm going to sound quite radical here. As a sociologist of religion, someone who studies religion and religious phenomenology, one observes that religions have emerged in history really in order to organize and protect human communities. And when those human communities find themselves in conflict or in competition with other human communities, religion, from a social science perspective, is a means of organizing that community for its own individual benefit. Now, some communities have become, and I'm going to use a very difficult word, have become virtually totalitarian by assuming that everyone should be a member of that community, and then that community will be protected and everything will be wonderful within the community. But in order to have that kind of world vision, it becomes essentially totalitarian. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I'm giving you this kind of introduction because this is where I'm coming from, and I want to be very honest with you. But religion is a form of organization of human behavior, and we're going to see how that has kind of emerged in history. I'm not putting a value judgment as being good or bad in this sense, how it has emerged in history, and that emergence of religions in waves of creation of one religion and then another religion that follows it has created a kind of natural tension that's built into the system that we can alleviate and we can work with, but only, I think, when we understand the phenomenon. So let's go to the Fertile Crescent and look at the emergence of ancient Israelite religion, and then we will kind of see how biblical religion works in relation to Islam and how the natural tensions have occurred there, and we'll see how we are in so many ways surprisingly similar despite our differences in history. So the Fertile Crescent is the watered area here in the Middle East, and it was settled by agriculturalists. If you look, of course, this is the area of the land of Israel and Palestine. This area was settled by farmers, and in the midst of this area is a large region here, which is the beginning of Arabia, which was settled by pastoral nomads. And there is a natural economic and social competition that one finds between pastoral nomads and agriculturalists. Agriculturalists are settled in an area, pastoral nomads wander, and there is a kind of a need for a relationship between the two communities. That relationship is required by the nomads who need goods from the settled areas, and the settled areas need usually transport and goods from outside their area, and so there's a kind of symbiosis, but the symbiosis is competitive. I want to demonstrate for you, or to show you, that some of the texts of the Hebrew Bible describe a kind of tension between Israelite agriculturalists and ethnically Arab nomads, and it's articulated in a form that is one of kinship. So if you take a look at the first set of texts in your handout, you'll see that Abraham took another wife